and welcome to my Flosstube. Well, my Makers episodes. So if you're new here, I'm Kathy, and this is a channel where I talk about things that I make. Mostly it's knitting and cross stitch. Occasionally we get a couple of other things thrown in there, but not this week. It's just knitting and cross stitch this week. So this is my April update, and I'm filming this halfway through May. So I have touched things, some of the things that I am going to show. I did start kind of at the very beginning of May, or have been worked on in May. But I'm also skipping a bunch of things that I have worked on since the last Flosstube because they're all May projects, because it is May, and May means mania and mirabilia in my world, which means that I have been trying to touch all of my mirabilia projects during the month of May. Well, I am trying to touch all of my mirabilia projects, mirabilia projects this May. So yeah, if I hadn't touched some of them by now, we would have had problems. But I'm not going to show all of those until May's update. So now that we have that little business out of the way, I do know that there are a couple new viewers. You've probably come because we met at Spring Mingle? Yes, it was Spring Mingle that was at. So it was really nice to get to meet you guys, and I hope you enjoy watching the randomness of my crafting. So yes. I do have one thing to add at the end. It's a little bit more like real life related. But other than that, I think it is just the crafting, and I don't think that there's anything else that I need to touch on. So let's start off first with the usual. Do I have any finished projects? And I have multiple this time. So I was a very busy girl and I finished a number of things. So the first, where did it go? Okay. I know I had it somewhere. We may have to do a very quick pause while I go figure out if I managed to leave one of those finished objects. So, I will be back. And we're back! And I have the thing. So I was almost done with this on the last one, and I finished it. And I am super proud and happy with it. So what I'm talking about is Poppy by Nora Corbett. And here she is. She looks so good. I did it on a 14 count opalescent, so it does, like, the background does glitter a little bit. Other than that, it's all of the called fors. I need to fully finish it. And for those who are interested, that's what my back looks like. So, yeah. Super happy she is done, and that brings me much joy. But she's not the only one that's done. There was a number of things that got finished recently. One of them is technically should be in the May, but it's coming in now because it's done, and I'm happy with it. So the second thing is this one. So this is 3 Racoons. 3 Racoons, it's a Riolis kit, so it uses a wool acrylic blend floss instead of cotton floss. And like it gets really, really good coverage. So even on with a single strand, it looks really nice. If you're interested, that's what my back looks like. And yeah, no, this was super fun. Enjoyed this a lot. I I have what is it? A trio of foxes? I don't know. Say essentially this idea, but with foxes that I would like to start, but I haven't yet. Because like, I have a lot of projects. And I've finished up a number just now. But the next one that I finished was this. So this is Chippendale. This is a Nora Corbett design, and it's an even weave. I think it's a Lugana. I don't remember what exactly it's stitched on, because the fabric doesn't have a label anymore because I didn't leave it with the label. Yeah. But nope, this one is finished as well, so that makes me super happy. So I've been doing a ton of beading recently. Which reminds me, I really, really, really do like the beading thread that I picked up. So I think it's like Beading Floss by Sunshine something. I actually picked it up in a needlework shop that was more focused on needlepoint than like cross stitch, but it's a lovely beading floss. It's not technically invisible, but it tends to do a very good job of blending in with fabric. At least all of the light fabric that I've used it on, it's looked really great on it. I haven't yet done it on a dark fabric, so I don't know what it would look like there. I do have a project that will be beaded at some point that is on dark, so we might try it out. If it shows up really bad, then I'll just go back to using like a black or something like that for that one. But so that's the third finished project. And now the one that technically is a May finish, but I'm putting it in here because it's finished and I'm happy that it's finished. So I actually finished the stitching for this during spring mingle, and then I had to wait for my beads to come in. But this is Joy Silhouette by Stoney Creek Samplings, and I did not use the called fors in any way, shape, or form. This is, I believe, Antique Blue. It was a Artiste. It's a Zweigart that packaged by Artiste, essentially. And then for the words, what I did was, so the center and then the outer border is stitched using one strand of white and one strand of a like metallic by Artiste. Again, I believe it's in the color Mystique. So I held both strands together because at least I found with those kind, if I hold one strand with a like a DMC, it makes dealing with it a lot easier. It doesn't tangle quite as much and does a better job. And then let's see, I think I used Preciosa beads as my seed beads for all of this. And I did actually buy the correct Mill Hill things in the corners. So let's see if so this here is the called for Mill Hill. But these snowflakes here and here are alternate Mill Hill beads, and then this inner center border is actually stitched using two strands of white instead of the Mystique and white blend, so it shows up a little bit brighter than everything else around it. But yeah, I'm super happy that this one is done. So yes, I had 4 finishes. I've had 4 finishes in the last month and a half. I have been slightly stitch heavy. I guess this is making up for the fact that April I was doing I'm talking about April. March I was doing a ton of knitting because I thought that my deadline was March 31st instead of April deadline. Yeah. So because of that, I did all of the knitting for the one cardigan and totally finished that up while not doing quite as much cross stitch. So April more than made up for not doing quite as much cross stitch. And also, like, it's getting warm. So knitting is not nearly as much fun when it is warmer outside because, at least in my experience, unless you're doing a bunch of dishcloths or small items, it ends up on your lap. And if it ends up on your lap, it's like having an extra blanket there. And once you start getting kind of warm, you don't want a blanket. So yes, knitting has not been quite as focused on as cross stitch was this month. It also helped that, like, there was a spring mingle in there, so we had some motivation to do a lot more cross stitch in my life. And then lighting, right? So days are getting longer, which means that even though I'm still leaving work fairly late-ish, the natural light is still out when I get home. And I can even go on a walk and get back to my apartment and still have enough natural light to work on some of my projects that, yeah, I need light for. I can't do them, like, artificial light ain't gonna cut it on them. In fact, I'm going to show you some of these projects. So, those are my finished objects. I do think I have a couple of baby hats, but I'm not pulling them out. Their knitting is finished, but they're not fully finished, and I don't show them anyways. So, I'm pretty sure I talked to you about which fabrics and floss and patterns for all of the things that I just did. So I think we are ready to kind of move on, right? So we've gotten finished stuff. So now what have I been working on? We have a couple of things. So I did say I'm not doing a ton of knitting, which is true. But I have been working on this project. It's just another dishcloth, trying to use up some of my scraps. So I've used up this orange scrap yarn that I have left of cotton, so I have just this white one. So we'll see if the white one will finish it out, but I don't think it will. I think I have some other cotton scraps though. So it'll be a very scrappy dishcloth. It'll probably end up being mine because I won't give away things like... So, at least with these, like, part of my intention in making them is that when I go and visit people, I grew up learning that it was very polite that if you happen to be visiting somewhere else, especially if you're staying with someone out at someone else's home who is not a direct relative, even if they are a direct relative, if they're not your parents, it is polite to bring a hostess gift to the place that you are staying. And so I do travel a good bit, and I do end up staying with people more often than I end up going to any type of hotel. So it's nice to have a stash of already made hostess gifts that I can just be like, I will take that, and that will be my gift to X when we go and visit, instead of frantically trying to make something right before then. Which may have happened in the past a couple of times. But if I'm giving something to someone as a hostess gift, I do feel like it's better that it looks like one cohesive item instead of this, which will probably end up being like a zombie put together dishcloth, because it's going to be a combination of whatever scraps of cotton yarn I have left. It'll still be a great dishcloth. It'll work fine, but I don't know that it would necessarily be something where I'd be like, yes, I will give this to someone as a thank you for letting me stay at your house. Here's all of the scraps thrown into a dishcloth. Have fun. Yeah, so one of my knitting projects in progress. My next one, I think I'll go do this one. So the next one that I have is my baby hat. I literally just started it. So I had another one that was on the needles and I ran out of it, so we cast on a new one, and this is the new color that I'm doing. So I'm going to have some fun, bright rainbow baby beanies to give to the hospital at some point. Maybe in June. June would be a good month to do it. End of May, beginning... Well, I think I have 2 balls left, so once I finish up with this ball and I'm starting on that next ball of yarn, I think I should go by the hospital and drop off what I've made. Which means that I need to fully finish it, right? So I do the knitting, that's the fun part, but then you have to because I end up with a cylinder. I need to make the top so that it's an actual hat instead of being a tube that you pull over the baby, and then adding the pom-pom onto it. So yes, there are things that need to get done that I haven't been doing because I didn't want to do them. Procrastination, yay. So that's the second knitting project. My third project is this one. So I want to say that this is the Cloud Sweater by Veronika Lindberg. It's from her pattern book, Knit This, and I am not entirely positive on the pattern. I think it is the Cloud Sweater. If not, it is something very similar to that. It's a bottom up, so you start knitting at the bottom and you knit up to the underarms, and then you split for the front and the back, and then you usually will add sleeves on at that point. And I'm knitting it with the yarn that I don't remember the name of because I don't have it with me right now, but it's this thing. So the yarn will naturally stripe itself because of how it is caked and put together. It's this very fuzzy acrylic yarn that I got on sale, I believe, from Hobby Lobby. So this is what it looks like in the ball. And this is how it looks knit up. So I'm really liking the looks of it. I will say it's not my favorite yarn to work with because because of how it's a very small yarn, but the fuzziness, which makes it look nice and soft, and even though it's a very thin yarn, it's not incredibly see-through because it's got this fuzziness on it. But the fuzziness also means that it doesn't knit quite as easily as a yarn that doesn't have fuzzy stuff. So not always my favorite knitting experience, but it's a really good mindless knit. This is what this is now. work knit for all of those meetings that you end up having to go to where you're there to get information and it may or may not be relevant to the rest of your job. So you do something else at the same time and you're like, okay, I will listen and pay attention, but I don't really need to take notes because 90% of this meeting is not relevant and does not apply to me. So yes, that's where this one is. I have nothing else to say about this particular project, but that is project number 3. And on to my final knitting project. My final knitting project is this guy. So I'm talking about one that hasn't, I don't know, it's been a little while since you've seen this one, mostly because I got stuck. So this is the Arctic Light Sweater by Veronika Lindberg. There may be a theme about some people that I enjoy patterns from. Yeah, so it's this really, really nice cabled sweater that has like 3 different cabled patterns in it. And then on the edges, it has this really nice textured pattern. There's a V-neck with a folded collar for it, and I'm just starting on the sleeves. We have some regular 2x2 ribbing at the bottom as well. So I am starting to pick up. I've finished picking up for the sleeves. That was my issue. I had to pick up for the collar, and then I had to pick up for the sleeves. And although I enjoy knitting, picking up is usually one of my not as favorite pieces of it, because like what you do is, let me see if I have an example. Let me pull out a project and try and explain what I'm doing. Okay. Try not to drop anything either. Okay. So when I talk about picking up, what I mean is you have a finished edge, right? So as you're knitting along, you end up with your edge, right? Your edge is finished. So like this section here. So when you pick up for like sleeves or collar, you have this kind of section here, and what you're doing is you're literally going in with 2 knitting needles and going into a space along the edge and making a stitch off of that edge or that stitch, so picking it up. And in order to make things look properly, right, you want to evenly distribute your picking up across whatever you're going for, right? So if you have a sleeve hole and you have to pick up 89 stitches, you don't want to pick up 70 of this, well, okay, 89, let's not say 70. Half of 89 is 45. So if we said I picked up 55 on the front of the sleeve and then only had 45 on the back, it's going to look odd once you finish knitting it, and you'll end up with a bunch more material in the front than you would in the back. You really want to have it basically evenly distributed around. Kind of makes sense. But in order to do that, right, you have to pay attention to counting and spacing. And so when I'm picking up, depending on the pattern and the instructions, they can give you great instructions or they can give you kind of some of them will be like, so along the back edge, like for the collar, you are told exactly how many stitches you should be picking up across the back, and then how many on each side. For other patterns, they're like, you have a collar, pick up 100 stitches, continue knitting, and they don't give you any like, so you should probably distribute it this way to get the correct look. This pattern does give you a pretty good description about how you should distribute everything, but it still involves a little bit of counting. So usually when I'm doing it, I'm marking at a minimum the halfway points for, like, at this distance I should have 25 stitches. And so if, like, I get halfway through and I'm like, I'm only at 10, I need to pick up a couple of more so that it evens out, right? I try and make it small enough so that, like, if one side has one or two more stitches than the other side, it's not going to totally overbalance it, right? So instead of doing just halves, I might do it in quarters instead. That way you have wiggle room and everything is still decently distributed. So that long explanation was to tell you, yeah, I was putting off doing this because it meant that I had to do all of that counting. And yes, I know it's ironic that I didn't want to count, and yet I am doing counted cross stitch, and most of my finishes this month have been counted cross stitch. But yes, I didn't want to do that for my knitting. And so it had been being put off for a while because I didn't want to do that. But I finally finished picking it up. So I have the right number of stitches on. I think right now I need to put stitch markers in so that I know where the start of round begins on these guys. And yeah, I get to work on my sleeves. I'm almost done. I just have sleeves left. And no other finishing, I don't think. I think I wove in all my ends too. I did! I'm so proud of myself. I wove in all my ends already. Oh, yay. Past me was so good. She went ahead and wove in all her ends so that I didn't have to do it when future me finishes up my sleeves. I'm so proud of myself. So yeah, that's the final knitting project. So now that we have finished the knitting projects, let's pivot and talk about some cross stitch projects, since I'm pretty sure that most of the new viewers are coming here for my cross stitch anyways, or know me from cross stitch. So I do have a number of projects that have been worked on. Some not as much as they should have been. Yeah. I'm behind on things, but that's okay. It's not life and death. We're good. So the first thing that I have here is, during the spring mingle, we had some lovely enablers who decided that they would peer pressure people into doing a stitch along with them. Also, Amity created a very wonderful pattern, which is super cute and deserves to have a stitch along anyways. So, yes, I'm talking about the Snack-O-Lantern Sal. I don't remember exactly what it's called. I will try and it'll go in the description below. But yes, Snack-O-Lantern by Boomerang Stitches is a pattern that I have started. And I've got a little bit done of it. So I'm doing it on cracked white pine texture. It's a fabric Flair 14 count Ada. And I don't have a ton done, but we've started his head. And I am anticipating switching up some things. So I'm definitely going to keep Mr. Raccoon all in DMC. But I might be switching everything else out. We'll see. That's a future decision. That's not a current decision. So we haven't gotten there yet. But I'm thinking I have a number of like silk flosses that would be fun to potentially do like at least all of the candy with, and maybe the bowl as well. I'm not sure about the pumpkin. I need to think about the pumpkin a little bit and if I want to do that something differently. So yes, future decisions need to be made. Haven't gotten there yet, but I did get started, so I'm quite happy with that one. The next project that I have has been my, what is it? Oh, so our local LNS, local needlework shop, has a sip and stitch night every Friday, and I've been going there. It's a good way for me to make some progress as well as to do some stitching related crafting with other people. A great way for an introvert to go do somewhat extroverty like things. So I have been doing a monochromatic piece as kind of, this is what I've been focusing on in that group. And I've actually finally reached the bottom. I'm quite happy with that. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about this guy. So I'm doing Long Dog's fish and chips on a piece of fabric by BananaOil. So this is the fabric. It's wonderful. Once again, Erin and Amity from Boomerang Stitches have introduced me to something that I really loved. But yes, so I've been doing it with an ecru floss on this wonderful piece of fabric, and I have reached the bottom. So you can see under the crab right here, that is the bottom. So I am, so I've gone from like a middle-ish start up here. We've gotten to the bottom, so I think we're gonna end up going like this on this piece. But I've gotten a good chunk done. I'm quite happy with where it is. By the end of this week's sip and stitch, I should finish my crab. I will definitely finish my crab, and I might be ready to move my hoop. That would be exciting. Move my hoop again. So that is fish and chips. Let's see, my next project doesn't have as much work as it should have on it. I am so far behind. But this is the Heaven and Earth Sal Paradiso Canto number 34. I have not done as much work as I should have on it. It is what it is. I do like the picture. And so far I'm actually, I like how it looks. The process of stitching it is not necessarily my favorite because there's a lot of confetti right now, and I would like a little bit of block. Just a little bit more block, please, thank you. So, we need to work more on it, but I haven't been, so that's where that one is. I think I put in a couple of stitches on it. See. Ooh. Yes, I do. So the next one that I'm working on is one that I do need that natural light for. So this is one that I don't do if I don't have sunlight. And this one is Evanora by Nora Corbett. It is the companion piece to Flair that I finished up was it last year around this time? It was probably close to last year around this time I finished up Flair. So she was done on a light purple, totally fine to do at night. Evanora is on this piece of fabric, which that is a very, very pretty piece of fabric. It is Helsinki by JacksonFabricArts. This is one of her hemp fabrics, so I think she's started saying that the hemp is not, like, I don't know that it's necessarily an even weave, so for cross stitch, like, you can use it for cross stitch, but unlike Lugana or linen, which are specifically made so that there won't be any potentially, like, right, so even weaves means that your warp and your weft are going to both be evenly distributed each way. So you would always have 14 stitches top to bottom as well as 14 stitches left to right. Most normal fabric, you're not paying that much attention to it because you're trying to create a piece of fabric. Ideally, that's not see-through. Depending on what it is. Okay. So there are some that, like, yeah, you do want it to be more see-through than others. But you typically want a tighter weave on most things, unless like cheesecloth, on and so forth. But I'm pretty sure that you have to set up your machines to do that in a very particular manner. Takes more time, more effort intensive. That doesn't mean you can't cross stitch on fabric that is not evenly woven, right? So you have cross stitch on like linen that is not even weave linen, and you have cross stitch on a variety of other fabrics, but if they're not even weave or like an Ada, it does mean that your X's that you're doing, because you're not having the exact same number of threads top to bottom and left to right, you may have more threads top to bottom than you do have left to right, and so like your X's, instead of being an X like this, right? So even weave, you have a perfect X. If you have more strands left to right than you do top to bottom, right, you can end up with your X being more like a rectangle like this, or you might have a rectangle more like that, right? So if they're pretty close, you still can end up with like rectangular X's, but not as bad. So I don't know that necessarily all of her hemp is even weave, but I have enjoyed working. I really like her hemp cloth. It's been super nice and soft and thick, and I think it's gorgeous. And she has some really beautiful colors in it, but I don't know that she necessarily has it as being cross-stitch fabric. Really long side tangent, but so this is on Helsinki, and I do love it, and I do want to finish it, but it is also super dark, and so it does not get worked on unless I can see it with natural light. Let's see. What's the next project that I'll bring out this one. This one I've just barely started. So, this is The Fox by Country Garden Samplings. Lots of people have seen it. This is The Year in the Woods #1. She's coming out with #2. So I'm excited about that and want to see more of it. But I'm doing it on a 40 count. Yep. 1/2. Yes. 1/2 on a 40 count linen. I am doing it from Fiber on a Whim in the color Night Sky. And I have a very itty bitty, teeny tiny start down there. Just a couple of stitches in. Yep, first time playing around with 40 count. It's small. It's very small. It is pretty. Also a fabric that I'm not going to work on if I don't have good lighting, because it's a pretty dark fabric. And I'm doing black right now, so black on a dark fabric is such a good idea. Yeah. But I think I will be doing some of the other ones on here as well, so that'll be fun. I believe I have 3 more projects. So we're almost done. My next project is one that I did start during Spring Mingle, and it is Bluegrass by Ink Circles. So, a lovely mandala pattern, and I got pretty far on it. I did really well until this last little bit, and I realized I made a mistake, and I am gonna have to go through and pick it out. And I don't want to, so it's currently in timeout. It'll probably come out pretty soon, because I do really like it, and it is a very fast stitch. It's a pretty fast stitch, but it's in timeout right now because there's a mistake right there. Yeah. Eek. Okay, so I am doing this on an unknown, probably linen. Feels like a linen. Looks like a linen. Has a couple of slubs. I'm guessing it's a linen. I have no idea what count. I have not counted to see what count it is. No idea. It came in a batch of fabric that I bought off of a de-stash. And I'm doing it with a sulky blendable, so it's a bunch of blues. Let's see, pull it in again. So 1 strand of sulky over 2 strands of the fabric, and I am really impressed with the coverage, for one, with the sulky threads. And then I really do like the subtle blues changes that is happening. It makes me happy. And yeah, so I really need to I need to frog that one section so that I can go back to being happy with it. Well, nobody can be perfect. Yeah. So I also this is the other ink circles that I did on the same fabric. See, because I'm lazy and I haven't bothered to cut and separate anything. And because I haven't been finishing things. Yes, that's me. So you can see there's my other finished one, and this one I made mistakes and I totally fudged it. But this mistake is going to mean that my corner's not in the right spot, and I can't do that. So close. So close, yet so far. And I caught it relatively fast enough. It's only like 20 stitches, I think, that need to be frogged out. But still, it's 20 stitches I don't want to frog out. I feel insulted. My second to last project is this one. It's a buttons and beads. This is Broom parking. It's got a cute little cat on it. There's my needle. My projects all have needles on them still. This is where I am on it. We've got it. I don't know how much I've gotten done. I don't keep statistics, but I've gotten a good chunk done. Here. Let me put my needle back on so I don't lose my needle, because that would be unfortunate. Isn't it fun when you get to play the let's tiptoe around because I don't know where my needle is game? Yeah, no, don't want to do that. So needle back on. side project. And yes, I am doing it on perforated paper because I do like perforated paper, unlike people who insult it. And then my last and final project is this guy. Let's pull it out. So this is Aqua Chick by Jim Shore. And I don't know if it's focusing on it or not, but I have finished the cross stitching on the front. Come on, focus. Close enough. So I finished cross stitching on the front, and I have a good chunk of the back done. So once I finish the back, we will be doing some back stitch, and then I get to bead all of this and figure out how to put it all together. So that's future me gets to do that. This is also one of those like work projects. So if I'm not having a ton of meetings, which, okay, I have been having a ton more meetings. I now have standing meetings when I used to not have weekly standing meetings. Job has been interesting and crazy. Yeah. So we are having more meetings, but I actually have to like participate / lead a couple of these meetings. So I don't get to craft while doing these meetings. I haven't had quite as many like, this is a general company-wide meeting that everyone needs to go to and it doesn't really matter. Well, like you need to pay attention, but like how much attention you pay, most of it doesn't actually apply to you. Not as many of those, a lot more like you are here to like actually talk about this and you need to take pretty decent notes because some of the people in this meeting will no longer be in this work environment anymore, which means that you need to know how to do their jobs. Good luck, have fun. Yeah. So that was my last project. So those are all of my works in progress, or my whips. I have a library book to talk about because I found a library book that I really liked. And I have a quick life thing to talk about. So we'll talk about the life thing real fast. So next month in June, I am going to be helping out with a volunteer event that a professor from my alma mater, so Iowa State College of Veterinary Medicine, I'm actually wearing a shirt today. She does a service project every summer, and it's turned also into a rotation for vet students where you also get to learn about practicing with different cultures, right? So if you own a pet, you do know that there is a stereotype for who your veterinarian is. I very much fall in that stereotype. So you may not have the cultural background for everyone who has a pet, right? So being able to work with or know different cultural backgrounds and how they deal with animals, pets, etc. can be very important. So this project has us go up to a Native American reservation called Crow Creek, and over the course of a weekend we provide free veterinary care, there we go, said it, for pets that are on the reservation, or pets and horses that are on the reservation for people who want to bring them in. And so we do like animal checkups. If there's anything, we'll do annual checkups. We do spays and neuters. We will also do other minor surgeries. Anything more complicated, We do give them a reference to local vets within their area that they can bring their pet to. They get provided, let's see, animal visit, vaccines, preventative care, all of that can happen at the clinic for the 3 days, and then we leave, right? In addition to dogs and cats, they also have a horse side of things, so they'll do castrations and annual checkups on horses, and I believe they may also do some floating of teeth. So if you're a horse person, you know what that means. If you're not a horse person, what happens with horses' teeth is, with the way they grow, they can end up with like growths on the side of them that are called points, right? And so if you have a halter or anything that would put a lot of pressure on like the sides of their teeth, it is, so those could possibly like put pressure on the sides. And also if your jaw, like the jaw is not perfectly aligned, these teeth are constantly growing, unlike our teeth where like it grows in and then it stops. They have teeth that continually grow, and because they're continually growing, you can end up with the way it is, like you'll end up with points on the outside and on the inside, which can then, like if they're not worn away, create issues with eating, etc. So you float teeth by basically getting rid of those points. You essentially take a Dremel or you take a rasp and you make them flat so that you don't have these problems anymore. So I think they might possibly do that as well. But since this is a service project, we do ask for donations, and we do get a lot of donations. However, it doesn't cover everything. So if you're watching this, and I believe today is the 13th, and we have like 17 more days. So I believe by the end of May, so if you're seeing this before the end of May 2025, we still have basically a crowdfunding page open, and if you feel so inclined, I would really appreciate it if you would go and donate at least a little bit to this project. So they're asking for a total of 5,000 in donations for the entire project. So with everyone that's going, if we each raised $100, so if 20 people happened to see this and went and donated $5, I would have reached the $100 that they're asking each person to try and get people to raise money for. So if you feel so inclined, feel free to check out the link. I'm going to have it in the description below. And if you are interested or you want to find out more, please let me know. I'm more than happy to talk about it. And I should have, like, we've had pictures from it in the past and things like that. So this is the 4th time I think that I'm going and doing this. So I do have experience doing it, and I'm more than happy to talk a little bit more about that at another point. So that is the personal thing that needed to get talked about. In the fun future plans thing, so you heard about the one with the Riolis. I do plan on starting another Riolis kit. Don't know if it'll happen this month, but I do plan on doing it. You know about Mirame. I'm touching all of my mirabilias, so you will have so many mirabilias to look at next month. So many. I have more than enough projects to do one a day. More than one a day have to happen in order for me to touch all of them by the end of May. That tells you how many mirabilias I have going. Now, not all of them are very far, but that is how many I have going. And then the other thing that I do plan on working on this month, in part because I got a library book out of it, so it has to get done, is this guy. So I found this in the library. Lit Stitch. It has book lovers cross-stitch patterns, and it's perfect. Now, not all of them are things that I want to do, but there's a number of them that I was like, oh, that's good. I like that. I am going to have to stitch that. So, let's see. Where is it? Like, that one's fun. So, bookworm. And let's see here. That one. Things like The Book Life. Because why not? There is no enjoyment like reading. Quote from Jane Austen, of course. You must. Not necessarily one that applies to me, but yup, bring your own book. Let's see. I do like the one about paradise and being in the library. So I think that, what is the quote? I have always imagined that paradise will be a kind of library. A quote by Jorge Luis Borges, I believe. And then seasons readings. Because yes. Yes, why not? Let's see. I don't drink tea, but read 'em in steep. I enjoy that. And treat your shelf. And yes, really, like a new book, treat your shelf. Bookosaurus. This one I definitely want to do. Let's see. And then that one is fun. I read dead people. I do. Read or Die. And then I think the last one is just books. Because, yeah. So, there are a number of patterns in this book that I am definitely doing. So I gotta start those. I gotta start those before that has to go back to the library. So those are my plans. I also plan on getting the sleeves done on the Arctic light sweater. 'Cause that needs done. Yeah. Other than that, I think I have covered everything. So that leads us to the final section called, if you are interested in this and you want to see more, feel free to like and subscribe. Yeah, if you have any questions or comments, sarcastic remarks, things that you're like, hey, that was cool, or have you thought about this? Feel free to leave a comment, or you could also go over on Instagram and find me there and send a message that way. I think those are the only ways that right now I'm going to give out for how to contact me. So comment either on the YouTube videos in this section, or you can find me over on Instagram. Same tagline, so Turnbulls Threads. That'll get you to finding my profile. It should be a picture of me on there, unlike my personal one, which does technically have a picture of me, but you can't tell because it's that far away. Yes. So if you are interested in following me on Instagram, I do put pictures of the various things that I'm working on occasionally up there. Well, occasionally. I put more things on Instagram more frequently than I do on here. But if you're interested, you can go over there and follow me there. And I think I'm done. And it looks like I have reached my normal hour. So with that, I will sign off. I hope you have a good day, a good week, a good weekend, a good month, and I will hopefully be seeing you a little bit sooner than I did this time. Because I do have something that I need to put up at the halfway mark. Yeah. Well, yeah, I said all my goodbyes, so bye!